Okay. Hey followers, today I'm interviewing sportscaster Alan Bestwick. He just messaged me, so let's do it.
Hello, John.
Hey Alan, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing really good. So yeah, I should tell you a little bit about myself before we begin this. I'm a social media figure on the rise, and I'm a Christian spokesperson, and I also am involved in a number of charities for autism awareness. Did you get...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm heavily involved in motor racing. I've been to several races, and I've also met several drivers.
Great.
Yeah. So I have a list... Oh, say that again?
I said good group to be around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm with you on that. So I have a list of questions about your career, and hopefully you have the answer for them.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Where are you originally from?
I am from Rhode Island.
Ah, very nice. The smallest
Small
state.
Yep.
I'm originally from Estes Park, Colorado. Ever been there?
Yeah. Actually, I have. Yes.
Yeah, the Rocky Mountain National Park is really beautiful.
That certainly was. My stepson, my oldest stepson, went to Colorado Boulder for a couple of years.
Nice. CU is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is your biggest hero in motor racing?
Oh, goodness. Biggest hero. I don't know if there was one in particular because I've been across so many different generations of it and involved in different ways over the years. When I was a young kid, the Saturday night heroes at the short track, where my dad raced for a few years, were kings of the world. When I did the sport professionally, people like Richard Kenney, AJ Foyt, and Gary Arborough, and I mean, the list could be 1,000 long.
Yeah.
They're all people I looked up to and had the great fortune to get to know and work around. And so it's taken a great variety over the years. It would be very hard to put one at the top, but I would say I've been fortunate to be around so many that it makes it almost an impossible choice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, to tell you a little bit about something regarding racing, my grandfather went to the Indy 500 years ago, and he went to the one where AJ Foyt won his fourth.
Oh, nice. 77.
Yep, 77. And so Foyt was one of his biggest heroes.
Yeah, AJ's fun to be around. He doesn't hesitate to tell you what he thinks, and I've been privileged to spend some time around him, and he's awesome.
Yeah, it's a shame he wasn't able to get that fifth 500 win. Yeah.
Well, you could say that about AJ and about a few other people too.
Yep.
But I don't know that there's anyone on the planet that has more of a passion for the Indy 500 than AJ.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Yeah, he's one of my heroes too.
For sure.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to become a sports journalist?
Well, I don't have a definitive answer for that other than a gut feeling from the time I was very young that it was just what I wanted to do. I was always fascinated by the guy on the radio and the guy on the TV, and I was one of those people that sat with an AM radio and listened to all the distant stations at night coming in from other places around the U.S. And it just was always something that I gravitated to. So I don't have any better explanation other than I was attracted to it for some reason, and my life circumstances allowed me to make a living doing it.
That's great to hear. I blog about racing every week on my Facebook before and after each race, like I do an analysis on my Facebook wall. Yeah, and that's what I kind of do. So I'm sort of a journalist, but on Facebook rather than professionally,
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell. There's so many outlets out there now that generating a mass audience and gaining momentum. It's the barriers for entry are much lower than they used to be, but the hurdles to mass success are much higher than they used to be. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully I'll get there soon.
Yeah, sure.
Who is your biggest hero in Indycar racing, if you have one?
When I was a kid, I was incredibly attracted to the Johnny Lightning Special that Alonso drove and won the 500 in 1970 and 71. And so that put Al near the top of my heroes list. And, of course, who wouldn't be attracted to Mario Andretti? And A.J. Floyd and just so many people over the time. But probably the first IndyCar that I kind of fell in love with was that Johnny Lightning Special from 70 and 71.
Yeah, that would be Parnelli Jones's car, I believe.
Yeah, Parnelli and a guy by the name of Al Militich. And, that car just dominated the race for 2 years.
Yeah. My favorite IndyCar story involving Parnelli Jones has to be when he basically took that turbine and led like the first 190 laps or so before breaking down with a few laps to go and giving Foyt the win.
Well, that's why it's a 500-mile race and not a 490.
Yep, that's true. And if I remember right, A.J. Foyt had predicted before the race that the turbine would have broken down, but he predicted it would have broken down after a few laps, if I remember right, rather than 190. I believe that's what happened.
Well, it was quite an innovative way of thinking in those days.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people. I saw a video on YouTube where a lot of drivers were asked if the turbine was cheating, and Graham Hill was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't think of it first."
That's it.
Yeah. How did you get your job with the Motor Racing Network?
It's a long and winding story of people you met along the way. Back when I was, 18, 19 years old, I was a disc jockey at a radio station in Eastern Connecticut, and one of their sponsors was a local NASCAR sanctioned racetrack, Stafford Motor Speedway. Years later, I was working in Washington, D.C. at a radio network, and I ran across a guy at a broadcasting convention who was running MRN. And the guy that was running MRN used to be the PR guy at Stafford Speedway back in the time that I was in Eastern Connecticut. And we crossed paths, and a few months later he called me and said he had a job that he thought I should interview for. And I interviewed and got the job, and off we went.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That reminds me a little bit of my story about meeting race driver Kyle Larson a couple years ago. I got to meet him at the racetrack, and he was when I met him, he was kind of in line for the porta-john, and I asked him for a photo. And he kind of had that look on his face as if to say, "I really got to take a leak, Yeah.
That's funny.
It's a little bit disappointing with what he's found himself into, don't you think?
Well, look, you have to understand that want to put your life out there to everyone all the time, then you're essentially on stage, on camera, on microphone to everyone all the time.
Yep.
And there are just there are ramifications to that. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, Kyle's not a bad guy in any way. It just it's very unfortunate, and it's a very big hole to climb out of for him. And my hope for him is that he's able to eventually set that path straight and get back to the top level of the sport. But this is a consequence of the social media era.
Yeah.
You're always on camera.
Yep. That's the best way to look at it, and I'm pulling for him every day since then because he's one of my heroes.
Sure.
Yeah. And I still have my photo with him that he autographed hanging on the wall in my office right here.
Nice.
Yeah. It's up there right next to me. I've also met his former teammate, Jamie McMurray, and McMurray was kind of my racing hero before it became Larson.
Yeah, Jamie's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. I agree with you. What was your reaction to the tragic crash at Daytona that claimed the life of Dale Earnhardt?
Well, it obviously was enormously sad. Was the culmination of a lot of things. You don't look back on that day with a simple thought because it's a very complex thought. I had a great relationship with Dale. I obviously to be there for his loss was very sad. The impact that it had on so many people. He was the analogy I used at the time was he was the Michael Jordan of NASCAR.
Yeah.
And the good that's come from it is the effort and the expenditure on safety research that came from that. It's done so much good to so many people for so many years. I don't know if, as a sport, you ever completely get over losing someone like that.
Yeah.
But certainly he was one of the all-time greats, and his loss was felt for a lot of people really, really heavily.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, and the safety features are really amazing. They probably saved Ryan Newman's life earlier this year, don't you think?
Well, I think, look, safety is an ongoing process. Auto racing will never be 100% safe.
Yep.
It's not possible. And the thing that's universal about the sport is every time you think you've seen it all, something happens that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
So, safety, the things that led to Ryan Newman escaping that crash was an evolution, a constant evolution and development, a constant examination of every accident, what can be done better, how can we, and it's why there were changes made to the cars after Ryan's crash. So, certainly the safety evolution allowed him to survive that wreck. But it's never completely safe, and you always have to keep learning and keep innovating and keep going forward.
That's a good way to look at it. I remember what happened in 2011 when Dan Weldon had his accident. I haven't told a lot of people this except for a few people, but I was actually scheduled to go to that Indycar race. But what happened was a friend of mine was working security and he invited me, but I made a poor choice in school and was grounded. And luckily I was, because I would have been sitting right where the accident happened if I had gone, and I wouldn't have wanted to witness that. But that was probably the one that I remember that was probably the reception of the death was kind of similar to Dale Earnhardt a little bit.
Yeah, certainly, and you know, I mean, so many things came from lessons learned from that.
Yeah.
The work that Dan had done developing um, the chassis that went into effect the next year was a lot of it safety related, and you know, he did a lot of the test driving and the work on that car. So
Yeah.
you know, no tragedy like that goes past easily, and hopefully, you know, the determination to learn everything you can learn from them never weakens.
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad I didn't go to that race, because no one wants to witness that type of a tragedy. You know what I mean?
No, that's not what you go for.
Yeah. And so my grounding was kind of a blessing in disguise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, in any case, you learn from it, and the good news is both sports have made racing safer, you know? But not completely. What was working with Benny Parsons and Wally Dallenbach Jr. in the broadcast booth like?
Well, a lot of fun. Benny was, from the minute we were hired to work together, you know, Benny called me up and said, Alan, the way this works best is if you and I become great friends. And that sure was easy to do. We played golf together every week, and you know, rode together on the road more times than not, and just became one of my best friends, and just really cared deeply about the sport and about the responsibility of bringing the sport to the audience in the right way, and you know, tell you the impact that Benny left on me is almost not a day goes by when some Benny story doesn't come up still. So that was one time. Wally was kind of the exact opposite. Wally was sarcastic. Wally was always looking to poke the needle. Well, you know, and a lot of fun. Knew a lot about everything. The technical side of the sport, the driving side of the sport, the business side of the sport, and Wally was never one to put a filter on what he said. And so he's a lot of fun too. And we had a really great team and had a lot of good times.
That's great to hear. Yeah. What was your reaction to the feud between Kurt Busch and Jimmy Spencer, if you remember?
Nothing out of the ordinary. You know, those things happen in high-stakes competition and high-speed competition, so my reaction was, you know, just nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Good. That's a good way to look at it, man. I look at it that way, too. You know, that's part of the sport.
Yep.
What was your favorite race to broadcast?
I don't have one. And, you know, my thing has always been forward-looking. Broadcasting is always about your next show. It's always about your next show and being ready for your next show. So I've never spent a ton of time looking backwards on things. I've always been very forward-focused, and so I don't know that I have one in particular. You know, if you wanted to make a list, there's 1,000 of them, and they're all fun and unique and different in their own way, and that's one of the great things about the business is that you just never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yep, as the song goes, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. You know?
Yep. Yep.
What was working with Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear like?
Fun, good people, good friends, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of passion for the sport. Really became good friends, and we had some really good times, even though we only got a few years together. And I don't know that there's ever been anyone who Indianapolis more than Scott, and I don't know that there's been anyone who has the experiences and the variety of experiences, both good and bad, across the spectrum of the sport that Eddie does. And those come about things from a very different perspective, and those differences in perspective were fun.
Nice. That's good to hear. Scott Goodyear was one of those guys who probably coulda, woulda, shoulda won several 500s if things had gone right.
Without question.
Yeah. It was amazing that he had such a tremendous duel with Al Unser Jr. That was like probably the one I would get all my money's worth if I witnessed, you know?
Well, there's a lot of people to this day that still feel Scott did win Indy 500, and
Yeah.
you can't go back and change rulings and things that happened at the time, but he carries a great passion for the sport, and he's just a great guy.
Yeah. He always seemed very nice from what I saw in the booth, and very analytical.
Yep, very much.
What was working with Rusty Wallace like in the booth, if you have?
High energy. Rusty is high energy all the time. And, hey, look, he's a Hall of Famer. He's been there, he's done that. He knows what it's like to win. He knows what it's like to get sent tumbling end over end. And he again carries a great passion for the sport. And, there's a lot of knowledge there to tap into, and it was always fun to sit around and swap some stories with him and just try to absorb some of that knowledge.
That's good to hear. What was broadcasting in Mexico City like?
It was a little different than normal, just because the logistics were different. But, once you got inside the racetrack, it was another race. It was fun. It was an adventure, another one of those things you marked down and said, okay, this was an experience, and I don't remember much about the races themselves, but I do remember there being big crowds. I do remember there being a lot of people very happy that we were there, but because of the logistics involved, it just was, it was different than the week-to-week normal race circuit was.
Yeah, someone told me last year that going to Mexico was kind of hard because of the mountainous terrain and all that you had to do to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would expect for the truck drivers that would be true, but for most of us flying in, it was just, like I said, just the logistics around getting in and out of the racetrack and that kind of thing was just different.
Alrighty. Didn't you interview Scott Pruitt in Mexico after his heartbreak back in 2007?
Honestly, couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I said maybe.
Yeah, I think you might have been it. And from what I remember, I think Juan Montoya had accidentally wrecked him, and they were teammates at the time. And I think you were the guy that interviewed him, and I think you said something like, Scott, what are your thoughts? And he was like, of all the people to take you out, your teammate. Do you remember that?
Honestly, I don't know, but
yeah.
That's a long time ago, and a lot of miles and a lot of interviews ago.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't remember, but yeah, I think you were. What was your reaction, if you can remember, to that race, or do you not remember?
Like I said, I don't really remember the specifics of the races there. Most of my recollections are around the logistics of the weekend.
Okay, got it. Do you remember the race in Montreal in 2007, the controversial race, or do you not remember that either?
Which one was that? Was that Boris? Was that... No.
That was when Robbie Gordon got into it with Marcus Ambrose, who was a rookie that year.
Oh, yeah, okay. Montreal was fun. Great crowds, great atmosphere, great city, and And yeah, usually a little fireworks on the racetrack too.
Yeah, Montreal was the race that I wish they didn't take off the calendar because nobody could predict the winners.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of wrinkles that go into staging races there at Montreal, and a lot of things that are out of necessarily NASCAR or the promoters' control, and yeah, it's too bad, but you never know. Maybe they go back one day.
Yeah, I would love it if they did. Which drivers did you enjoy watching the best between the NASCAR regulars and the road course ringers?
Oh, I don't know if I ever broke it down that way. I always enjoyed the chance to catch up to people like Ron Fellows, a couple times a year when he would jump in the NASCAR races. Those guys were always terrific to work with and good people, and obviously knew how to get it done. It was always that interesting balance between the people who raced that type of car every week, but did it mostly on ovals, versus the guys who ran road courses all the time, but not in a car like that. So I just would recall it as being fun to be around some of those guys and get to know them, and a pleasure watching the whole interaction.
Ah, that's good to hear. Did you hear that Ron was awarded the Member of the Order of Canada this year?
I believe I read that somewhere. Yeah, Ron's a great guy.
Yeah, he really deserves it. A friend of mine had told me the news, like on New Year's Eve, and it was a Vic Sifton of Canasca racing. He was from the 1990s. He's not as well famous, but he was the guy that told me. And he was the guy that gave Ron his first start.
Nice.
Yeah. What was working with Dr. Jerry Punch like?
Doc's fun. He's a good friend. Known him for a long time. He works really hard at what he does at preparing, and obviously brings a field of knowledge to what we do that none of the rest of us are remotely qualified for. And like I said, to this day, a good friend, and we talk about every week. And he's been there and he's done that for sure, and we share a lot of miles.
What does he have a doctorate in exactly?
Doc was a trauma physician.
Ah.
So he was an emergency room trauma physician.
Nice. Amazing that you can be both a reporter and a trauma doctor. That's really amazing.
It was a hard juggle.
Yeah. What was your reaction to the feud between Boris Said and Greg Biffle? I think it was at Watkins 2011.
Don't remember much about it, other than, that's racing.
Yep. Do you remember what your reaction was when Tony Stewart won the championship that year, just weeks after saying that NASCAR was giving him a wasted spot?
Well, I don't remember that kind of a quote from Tony, but that's not a surprise because, again, that's not the kind of thing that I dwell on. But I do remember Tony winning the championship, and I believe that first one I did the champions interview, and one of his crew guys poured an entire 2-liter bottle of Coke over my head while Tony and I were talking on TV. And that was just the beginning of the party. So, good people.
Yeah. That sort of reminds me, a few years back, I kind of went through a rough patch in my senior year of high school, and my instructors publicly predicted that I wouldn't have lasted a year in college. And so far, I've proven them wrong, because I'm just about to get my associate's degree.
Very nice.
Yes.
Hey, Doug, how much longer do you need? Because I have another call here coming up very shortly.
If you have a call coming up, how about we save the rest of the questions maybe for a follow-up interview? Does that work for you?
Okay. I'm in the middle of... It probably have to be at least a month from now. So.
No problem. I'll get back to you maybe a week in advance, but does that work for you if we do a follow-up?
Sure. It'll be just fine.
Alrighty, cool, and I'll save the rest of my questions for then. Sound good?
Great, great. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, man, and thanks for making the time.
And enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch up to you in a month.
Alrighty, talk to you then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Cool. That worked out. Cool. Worked out well.